Hi listeners, Jason here. We are excited to finally announce registrations for the biggest psych health and safety community event ever. The inaugural The Psych Health and Safety Conference will be held at the Sofitel Wentworth, Sydney, June 19 to 20, 2024 and offer concurrent virtual attendance. It'll feature live podcast recordings with OG researchers including Christina Maslach and Michael Leiter of Burnout fame, Psych Health and Safety USA podcast host Bryan Daniels, Australian super experts including the likes of David Burrows, a special 10-year anniversary integrated approaches to workplace mental health panel with authors Tony LaMontagne, Angela Martin and Kat Page, hand-picked case studies from organisations doing it well, and a very special interview with plaintiff Zagi Kozarov by Catherine Dunlop on that High Court case which we previously covered on the podcast. This event will sell out. Get in quick to secure tickets at early bird prices for the 2-day conference, pre-conference masterclasses, and the VIP dinner. The first 200 in-person registrations also get a copy of her latest book, The Burnout Challenge, signed by Christina Maslach herself. Find out more and register at www.psychhealthandsafetyconference.com. Now, on to this episode.
As families in the U.S. gather for food and drink over the holiday season, they bring their mental and emotional health along with them, and it manifests in the conversations and actions that they take. To talk about this issue, it's a pleasure to have some of my real family on to talk about work and psychological health and safety. Just a warning, the conversation will be authentic and will include a bit of salty language. But stay tuned for this family chat up next on this episode of the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. From Flourish DX, this is the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. As workplace mental health has become a global priority, there's a greater focus on addressing psychosocial hazards. Each episode, we look at psychological safety from an occupational health and safety perspective. Let's talk Psych Health and Safety. Well, welcome to this week's Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. I'm your host, Dr. David Daniels, and I want to thank you for tuning in. Each week, we seek to increase awareness of the importance of psychological health and safety by learning from the lived experiences, research, and expertise of our guests, as well as advocating strategies to reduce harm and minimize vulnerability to psychosocial hazards in the American workplace. So this is the time of the year when families tend to get together to share each other's company over a meal, conversation, football, and sometimes early shopping trips. These get-togethers can also be a time for family to share their stories about work. So I thought it'd be a good time to get some of my real family, these folks are really related to me for real, together to discuss our various experiences at work. And the goal is to share some of our lived experiences as well as some of our thoughts about how to support family members and others when work is psychologically challenging, because it can be sometimes. So my family's very communicative. We actually have a monthly family Zoom where we get members of the family together from all over the country, because we kind of are all over the country. And we also use this app that some of you may have heard of, and it's called Marco Polo. They're not a sponsor or anything, but if they want to sponsor, just please reach out. But to have conversations between the Zoom calls and our traditional conversations that we have with each other. But again, I just thought it'd be an interesting thing to do, to have conversation, again, amongst just like family does. And I've asked to be a part of this conversation. My family's really large. There's no way I could get them all on at the same time. So I've chosen to have my youngest sister, my youngest son, and my brother's youngest daughter. So there's a young theme kind of going on here. And we're going to start, as I so often do, by having my guest introduce himself. So let's start with an introduction of my guest by the guest himself with this question. And first up, who is Kolesta Moore?
Kolesta Moore is the baby of 7 kids. She is a seeker of of knowledge and uh, human evolution. She is a wanderlust. She is rich auntie vibes. She is a singer-songwriter, yoga and meditation instructor. She owns a bit of property, and there's one other job in there, and I can't quite recall at the time. I go hard and I try to play a little hard, and I'm trying to live life to the best of my abilities.
Right on, right on. We'll have opportunity to share more. Absolutely. So, who is Bryan Daniels?
Bryan is ironically the son of the podcast holder, his youngest, me. I'm 33 going on 34. I have been a business owner for the past 7 years. My business in itself is sushi. I've been in the culinary industry for like 10 plus years. I've had the business for 8 plus years. And I'm a young man that's just trying to find his way in the world, that's getting more and more expensive, and just finding ways to survive.
Okay. All right. All right. So, who is Iman Burks?
Youngest of group of five, 26 years young, Libra, recently separated from the Navy, 8 years strong, and currently pursuing a career in commercial or residential real estate. That's me in a nutshell.
Okay. All righty then. Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of this interesting back and forth we're going to have. So the first question that I tend to ask folks when they come on, and again, I'm not looking for the textbook definition because we don't have a textbook here. But when you hear psychological health and safety, what comes to mind for you? And Bryan, you're first up on that one. Psychological health and safety, what does that mean to you?
Psychological health and safety is a lot. It pertains to me a lot to the employee's experience of workplace balance between work and home. And I think a lot of employees focus so much on your productivity at the workplace that your personal life gets ignored. And because of that, that's where you have a lot of problems where people are reacting to work that has nothing to do with work. It's not work's problem that you're reacting or you're feeling or your body language or anything that you're doing as far as what you should be doing as far as the company perceives you is wrong or right because the balance isn't there. Psychologically, everybody's going through something every single day. It doesn't matter who you come across. Every single person in this world is going through something, enduring something. But the lack of empathy from the employer to the employee creates issues daily, momentarily. It gets very complicated, convoluted, where it becomes a victim blaming issue where the victim, or which in this case would be the employee, is the one. You didn't deal with your issue. You didn't do this, that, and the third. So it's your fault that you're reacting this way. It's your fault that you're not doing this, that, and the third. Meanwhile, if the employer isn't contributing or at least providing an environment to allow this individual to be themselves, to express themselves, or to at least be able to ventilate some of what they're dealing with in a personal life, if they don't have an environment that is conducive enough to give them the freedom and space to understand that they're going through something, but they have to keep striding through. And instead of pressuring them to fit into your norms, you're just continuing not the roster, excuse me, but the rat wheel process of it's your fault, get it right, get it right. But I'm going through this. Who cares? You're here. You're supposed to be here. Get it right. I'm like, you don't care about how I feel. So if the psychiatric nature of my environment is not conducive of what I'm dealing with, there's probably going to be conflict.
Okay. Iman, your thoughts about psychological health and safety. What does that mean to you?
I think psychological healthy is a lot of different things tied up into one, where work is obviously something we need to do in order to provide for ourselves, provide for our families, and all that different stuff, where it also plays a part into what happens at home, like Bryan said, and how that can tie into how you react at work. Maybe your mood is a little off. Maybe your mannerisms are a little different. And it takes a little empathy, like he was also saying, from your employer, from your manager, from the people you're around on a regular basis to take notice of that and say, hey, okay, maybe you're off a little bit today and you shouldn't be facing customers and consumers, and maybe you should be back doing a little bit of paperwork. We can talk about it later. Obviously, there's a place and a time to have these conversations, but knowing that the conversation needs to be had is really important. And I think it plays a part into the customers as well, if I can be honest, like knowing that the person you're speaking to is someone's wife, daughter, father, uncle, brother, like, and they have their own things that they're going through on a regular basis. So while the, what is it called? The customer's always right. That kind of aspect of like, oh, I'm here to get provided a service. That is true. However, we need to have a little bit of grace with people, I think, at least every once in a while, to say like, okay, maybe you're going through something. Smile, go on about your business. Know that the next employer is going to have a different interaction, you know? So just consumer, employer, as well as higher ups, regionals, different things like that on the side of the business all have to have this psych health and safety aspect of like, each person's going to have a different experience.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kolesta, your thoughts?
I actually have probably a slightly unpopular position. Can we cuss on the podcast or no?
Okay.
Probably not.
Yeah, you can. Yes. Let me warn some of our guests that's yeah. But express yourself in the way you'd express yourself
in an authentic manner. Deal.
Yes.
So for me, the workplace is this gathering of a large swath of human beings, right, who share this common theme or goal of getting a paycheck. And if you're lucky, maybe, advancing the goals of the company that they work for. And all the human beings in that space are, balancing realities, right? From the top to the bottom. No matter how you slice or dice it, we are all just a bunch of humans trying to get by every day. Different roles, different responsibilities, et cetera, et cetera. My perspective is keep that shit at home. And where there is psychological safety in the workplace is the constant encouragement and provision to utilize mental health resources that are curated specifically by the leadership team or by the HR department or by, the people who are responsible for, retaining employee satisfaction, yada, yada. So I think that, yes, people have problems, and yes, it plays into what your best looks like every day. But keep that shit at home and utilize your resources and maintain your work-life balance. And if you're lucky, you're in an environment where there are resources and an encouraging team for you to manage that. But I don't really subscribe to the idea that everyone should be walking onto the work floor or into the work environment expecting to carry the weight of all of their employees or their coworkers' realities, because that's just it's not sustainable long term. It's not realistic. Not everybody has the same capacity. So, hopefully the job provides and encourages utilization of, well curated resources so that people can get therapy, they can get medication if they need it, they can have, acupuncture, chiropractic care, like whole self-care. That's what psychological safety looks like in the workplace, and an environment where people encourage folks to utilize those resources so that they can manage it. Because professionalism kind of cuts out all the other stuff. If you just keep the thing, then, everyone should be safe, because the thing is, it's very one-pagey. Professionalism is very one-pagey. Mind your manners, do your job, clock in, clock out. If you're lucky, come to a birthday party, have a piece of cake. Keep it, because I got to go home and deal with all of life and all of reality. And if everybody came to work like, I'm a human and I'm going through something, everybody would be in work like pulling their hair out. No.
So yeah, Kolesta, your response suggests or highlights the fact that I think we are probably 4 different generations on this call, in this conversation. We really are. Or at least bordering, because I think, Iman, you might just be not quite a Gen Zer, but probably closer to a Gen Zer, and then a millennial, and different a Gen Xer, and technically a baby boomer, but I don't like being one. Yeah. So again, and that was also intentional by getting the 4 of you, the 4 of us together, is that we all have these different views and ways of looking at the times when people get together, and none of them are wrong. The issue is not whether they're right or wrong. The issue is that, is the space safe enough for you to be able to express that, and if the place doesn't have, Kolesta, what you just, mentioned, then maybe I shouldn't be there. Maybe the problem's not them. Maybe the problem is I shouldn't.
Get out of there.
Yeah, seriously.
Get out of there. If the job doesn't have the ability to provide you with resources to manage your shit so it doesn't come to work, run.
Yeah, right. So,
there wouldn't be a lot of jobs then.
Say more.
I don't think there would be a lot of jobs that we go to on a regular basis, like your local Walgreens or your emergency center. They probably have it because there's technically in medical healthcare and stuff. But some of the average jobs and people you see on a regular basis, I don't think they have those resources. It's not in the contract. It's not in their job title and whatever resources they have.
Any company that has been burned enough with not, people having breakdowns, mental health breakdowns because of the pressure at work, probably has developed some sort of something, because it's expensive when you are not a psychologically safe place for human beings to be. So companies tend to, intelligent organizations and companies tend to have a focus and a department that is catered to that, for the sake of making sure that people don't burn out. Making sure that people can do their job at the capacity that is expected of them. And yeah, you're right. There's a lot of places that aren't great jobs, but the laws indicate that there is a requirement in this area, just like others.
So, and Bryan, I want to get you in on this conversation. The other thing that makes this conversation different is the fact that Kolesta is on the West Coast in California. Bryan is in Georgia, and Iman is in Virginia. And again, there's a big East Coast, South, particularly Southeast, West Coast kind of split, where some of the things that go on. So California recently passed a law that is going to focus on workplace violence and make you responsible for taking care of situations or preventing situations where there's workplace violence. Georgia doesn't have anything like that. Virginia, I don't think, does. So again, there is a difference just in the way people experience work. And some people experience it to the point that where they decide to create their own business, which is where there's a reason why people sometimes have their own businesses. So, Bryan, is that right?
I wholeheartedly agree with that because that's when people ask me, why I started what I do. Do I love sushi? Literally the main reason I even started my business was because I got so tired of being told what to do and being treated like shit. To be honest, that's literally the whole thing behind me starting this. Is I'm tired of people treating me like crap. I'm tired of being told what to do by people that won't give me the knowledge I need to be on the level that they want me to be, and then working tirelessly for wages that don't match my work ethic. I'm making $1 extra over a dude who isn't doing as nearly as much as I'm doing, whether it comes to personal relations with clients and customers, or background work with just having my personality and aura around my fellow employees that gives them a reason to come to work, because that's kind of one of those small details that's not really highlighted a lot. Is you have places you might not like to show up to, but there's an employee there that you like to meet, that guy, that girl, that person, whoever they are. They're your reason to keep coming to work. And it could be your connection of, we hate this job, but they're the reason you keep coming back. You keep clocking in. And I brought all of that, I felt like, So I got tired of that whole repetition, and I felt like no one else was following along with my ambition to stop doing this crap. So I just said, screw it. I'll just do it myself. And it was ugly for a while, but it's been so worth it. It's been so worth it. So worth it.
So Bryan, you introduced really the next question that I want to talk about, because we've hit the ground running here, folks, and mentioning how challenging a lot of jobs are. They're challenging. Some have resources, some don't. Some are big, some are not. Some are here, some are there. But so let's talk a little bit about what a great job really looks like. And it's not to say that you're in it or not now. But what is your view of what a psychologically healthy and safe job looks like? What? Iman, let's start with you. What do you think that looks like? What's your opinion about what that looks like?
It's so crazy because it's easy to say what should be done and all that different stuff from the outside looking in. I don't own a business. I'm not a business owner at this time, or yet, I should say, But in my mind, from an employer's standpoint, it's like you come in, well, you go through the interview process, right? You meet the person. You're obviously putting on your best hat. You're like, okay, these are all of my pros. This is why you should hire me. But let's be real. It's not a hoax, but it's a show. You're putting on your best foot forward at this point, right? They don't know you have all these things going on in the background. You need this job for X, Y, and Z. You're really needing it for so many different reasons. And then you get there and providing the resources, like Auntie Kolesta said, like even in training, simple as training, letting you know exactly this is your job title, this is the requirements, this is the standard, this is that. And while it can be an dump of like information that you have to take on, they work with you through that. And if one or the other isn't capable, you just be honest in that. You know what I mean? Like, this wasn't exactly what I signed up for. I'm gonna go, because people job hop now in this culture a lot. It's like, okay, this is obviously not for me. I'm going to move on. This is my 2 weeks. I'm sorry. I'll train up the next person as much as I can, but I'm moving on. Or the employer can also do the same in most states. I think it's like a at will type of thing where they can be like, I don't want you as an employer or employee anymore. You're gone. But the training is where I think that missing piece is, because they're just like, at least in the industry I have jumped into, is like, I've been told on several different occasions, you just learn as you go. I'm like, but what about, I'm coming from, right, like Navy, where there's rules, regulations, standards. You can look in this section CBD 1 to 3500 of this and learn exactly what needs to happen. It's a lot, but it's not impossible to look through and read and actually retain the information. But I don't know about a lot of other companies, how that standard really works. It's a lot. So maybe having that training, the initial like coming in and learning what needs to be done and what your role is.
Sure. Kolesta, what do you think? Again, this is what does a good one look like? Psychologically healthy job. What does that look like to you?
I really quick want to respond to Iman. Like,
Sure.
training is a hoax. Training is a hoax. They're going to give you all of the information you need. And if you're really bad about it and you want the training, you're going to read all that. But most people don't. They sign it, they start the job, and then it's kind of hands-on. And you do learn as you go. Now, if you're in an environment where someone is judging you for things that you've not learned yet through experience, that's not psychologically safe. But if you're in an environment and it is kind of like, I can't really give you this, I can't sit you down and feed you all of this and you be ready to do it by yourself, you're going to have to learn through working through different things that come up, then yeah, hopefully the job provides an easy button and some grace while you learn, and the situations will teach you. When it comes to an organization that I feel is, I actually feel like I work for one. Not to say that I've not felt psychologically unsafe in the workplace. The organization that I'm at now currently They focus a high level of attention on providing resources, processing groups, meditation, grounding exercises in the middle of the day. They provide this amazing acupuncture and chiropractic healthcare package. They provide the Calm app for free. They provide access to gyms. They provide therapist connections. They encourage you to take time. There is a strong push for everyone to utilize all of these resources, the EAP resource. So the organization that I work with now has a plethora of skills. So that's why it's kind of like, leave that shit at home. Like you got work it out. Don't bring
Right,
that shit
right,
over here. Good vibes in the
right,
office, okay? We all got a lot to
right,
do.
right,
And so that to me, because a job perfection is the idea of perfection is flawed in and of itself. So there's no perfect organization because it's full of a bunch of flawed human beings with a lot of different personalities. It's a socioeconomic different blah 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 blah, right? So as long as there is an expectation of professionalism and utilizing provided resources to manage all that is life outside of work and even some of the experiences that you're having at work, like there's a debrief policy, there's when something traumatic happens at my job, there's a whole process that upper management has to follow to make sure that you walk people through processing traumatic events. So that to me is psychological safety, taking care of the whole person as an employee.
yeah, yeah. That's kind of a mic dropper there.
For sure.
We'll come back to that one here in just a second. So, Bryan, what's your thought about what is that good situation? What does that look like?
I agree with Auntie Kolesta where like the idea of perfection is fault. It is a fault in itself. As far as the ideal, I guess, recipe of things is, I mean, from my perspective, is pay me my worth. If me as an individual employee is better than the rest that you're having here, or better than what you've had before, pay me my worth. Two, give me an environment that doesn't add stress to my job. So there are environments that people have accepted as normal where the environment is moving fast, but the project or the skill set or the assignment doesn't require the kind of stress level that's added to them. Why is that on my back? That shouldn't be there. There should be, as Iman has stated, as Auntie Kolesta has stated, there should be a structure that people follow. If the company has this guideline, these messages, these standards as to what, how, and why they exist, they should be stated so solidly, or in stone in a way that it doesn't matter who comes through these doors as far as the business is concerned. We all understand what's going to be done, and you just follow that. Don't let me come in here and I have to give you an idea as the business as to what I should be doing. I wanted to come to you because I thought you had a way to go. I have this skill set, so I came to you, who's someone who needs the skill set, and then I come to you, being like, what you want me to do? And you're asking me what I should do for you. That doesn't make any sense. You were missing something. I thought I was at something, but now for some reason, you forget what I should do to you. I need structure, please. Please structure.
Okay, alrighty. Okay. So we've chatted a little bit about what psychological health and safety kind of generally means, and that led into some examples of, in some cases, what it's not, and then you just filled it in with what you think it should be. So what is it that you believe that some of these organizations are missing? What is it that they're because I don't believe that everybody who has a business, who has an organization, who has government, whatever, I think a lot of the folks actually want to do a good job. And even the folks who are in leadership want to lead people in an effective way. It doesn't always seem to work. So they're missing something. And I want to hear a little bit about what you think is missing. So I'm going to start with Kolesta and then Bryan, you're next. So what do you think they're missing?
I mean, Like I said earlier, everybody's a human being. So sometimes people are missing a, they're missing an F bomb. They're missing an F
Missing.
bomb. Some some
I,
organizations are
I,
missing an F bomb. They want people. I mean, we've got to remember the society that we were born into. A lot of the jobs that are available to people based on their socioeconomic realities and other factors are, they're chains, it's really like, robotic execution of a series of things, right? Um, and those jobs, I do believe, provide what they can to people to do, the bare basics of their job. But then you get into some of these other industries and organizations, and there's a really high level of stress. And so there has to be um, a vested interest and focus on because if you think about it, any intelligent employer is going to think it costs me more to hire you and fire you than it does to hire you and help you manage yourself, right?
Hi listeners, Jason here. We hope you're enjoying this latest podcast episode. Now, if you're like Joelle, Alicia and myself and enjoy learning from the best, then the Flourish DX Academy is for you. The Academy includes free e-learning courses on the ISO 45003 standard for psychological health and safety at work, and associated topics such as how to conduct a psychosocial risk assessment and how to create the business case for psych health and safety. All courses feature high-quality videos, downloadable resources, multi-choice questions, and a downloadable training certificate on completion. Take your learning to the next level with all Flourish DX Academy courses included within the Flourish DX mobile app. Select podcast episodes from the Psych Health and Safety podcast and sister podcasts from Canada and the USA are also included. Get started with Flourish DX for free at www.flourishdx.com/get-started. That's www.flourishdx.com/get-started. Now back to this episode.
So, and you need employees, right? You need them not to burn out. You need them not to quit. You need them not to go on medical leave for 9 months, right? Because it's expensive. And then you also need the services that they are getting paid to provide to actually be provided to the customer and, the initiative of the organization or job or whatever, right? CVS sells what CVS sells. The person that owns CVS needs CVS to sell the things it needs to sell, right? So the people that are there need to sell the things that are at CVS or run the CVS, right? So some jobs are missing an F-bomb. Some jobs are missing, I think, someone who hires people who are joining a team or joining a company for a reason. I think sometimes people just hire humans. I used to at one of my jobs, our payroll thing was called human capital management. And when I read that, I was so disgusted. Human capital disgusted me. And I think that obviously at a certain point, people are looked at in that manner. And I think that when you start to look at the people who are providing you with the fuel to make your company run and looking at them as something to invest in so that your company does better, then you get more out of people. And yeah, and some folks you just need, but the majority of people, if you invest a bit in them, they will want to. People want to work. People want to feel good. They want to make a living. That's just kind of a human and very American natural thing, right? So if you care enough about the humans that are running the company, right, then that is the goal. But if you're only concerned about selling the things that your company sells and everything else is just sort of a byproduct or hazard or a whatever else, then yeah, it can get real unsafe and it can get real just not healthy for anybody. So, everyone needs to give an F-bomb and they need to truly invest in the human beings that they expect to provide a service to the customers and forward the mission or the goals of the company.
Right. Bryan, your thoughts?
In exchange for what my auntie Kolesta was talking about, I think the word was, besides using F-bomb, was empathy. Empathy,
Okay.
which honestly reverses back to what she meant to say, which is giving a fuck. Employers need to give a fuck. It's very simple. If you care and are willing to give your employees, who are probably most likely, because you're the employer, their employee, they're not likely to have the financial security that you have. They need more space and room to be themselves. Obviously, not wholeheartedly. I can't give you your life at work because it's work, like Auntie Kolesta was saying. However, there needs to be a sense of balance in giving people space or an environment that is suitable enough to not provide more stress than what they deal with in their personal life. So it's the employer's job, for employers that actually care, to provide employees an environment that gives the employees authority to do their jobs in an efficient manner and in a way that they feel their higher ups, managers, owners of the individual location, etc. I'm thinking more so retail wise, in a way that the employee feels they're going to get backed up by their company. I have always felt, and it's got into high gear with me now. Excuse me. As far as being like an individual business owner, the whole customer's always right is bullshit. They are not always right. Most of the times they're wrong. You know why? Because you, the customer, came to me, the professional, and you're asking me something you don't know. I'm going to know it. So if I correct the customer, the employer is taught, you don't do that. You let them be right, and I'll come correct you to correct the situation. But that's wrong. If the customer is wrong, and I'm right in my stance as an employee of your business, your stance is to come over as the employer and to give strength to your employee, to give them, by the way, you're right. However, this is how I want you to respond. This is how the mannerisms I want you to give the customer, because regardless of the situation, I still want them to come back. And then you, as the employer, you give the information to the customer. That's how that chain of command is supposed to go. So this whole idea of I ordered a Caesar salad, and then it goes to the kitchen, and it comes out, and the customer says, I ordered no Caesar dressing. No, you did not. I wrote it. Well, the customer's always right. No, they were not. I wrote it down. And as the employer, based on what my employee told me, ma'am or sir or they, you did not correctly communicate that information to my employee. Therefore, you are still viable to pay for this first salad. We will absolutely bring you the second one at a discounted rate for the miscommunication. But it's not on them that you miscommunicated. It's on you.
Right.
Period.
Right. Well, okay. Iman, what if you can follow that?
I don't know, really. I was really going to summarize the same thing, Auntie Kolesta, to what Bryan was saying. It's empathy that they may be lacking a little bit. And the idea that came to mind randomly is like that show of bosses go to work at the place that the company that they built. Undercover Boss. Yes. And it's similar to that. Like, I don't know. It can't be obviously a law, but it's like, if you haven't worked in the industry that you're building the company around, I don't know if you have much credibility to be running that business. If you don't know what they're going through, because you can't provide the proper support or understanding or empathy of what they're going through on a day-to-day. Because I feel like you can tell when an employer says, I've been in your shoes, and then they start talking and you're like, have you? Have you really? Have you really? Do you really see what I see on a regular basis? Or maybe they've forgotten. Obviously, human, we're all going through different things. But I feel like once they get comfortable and start bringing in a certain amount of income and living a certain way, it's kind of they forget that we're the people that are providing you that lifestyle. And it doesn't feel like we're getting, like Ryan was saying, that support or trust that, you're going to back us up when stuff hits the fan, right?
Yeah. just an important thread that I think I've heard amongst, what we've been saying, what you've been talking about the entire time, is the need for the employer to support the people who are actually doing the work that the company organization says they want people to do. And instead of, nobody's perfect. So when you get a perfect organization, as soon as you put a human being into it, then it's not perfect anymore. So, so all you gotta do is put one. Doesn't matter. But what? Yeah, one will do it. But what creates the psychosocial hazard? So a little bit of textbook here. In my research, I defined a psychosocial hazard as any factor at work that is perceived or experienced by the person as a threat that in turn affects their behavior. And the way your brain looks at stuff, either it's a threat or a reward, period. That's the only way your brain looks at things. And so you say something, if I perceive it as a threat, I start to react because it feels threatening to me. That's just what happens. And, that's a human thing. It's a human thing. So there's a raised hand. Brian has a comment. Go ahead. Yes, sir.
A very basic comparison to what you just described, it's like essentially being an employee at the checkout window at McDonald's, who's notorious for having broken milkshake machines. Right? However, right. As the employee, you have to deal with the communication between the guest / customer about not having milkshakes available to you, but the company has never taken care of the machines that have a notorious nature for not being fixed. You as the employee are now dealt with having to deal with the communication between you yourself and this customer who only wants this one product, but you cannot provide the product. And it seems comical, but those are why, in particular, what I'm describing, fast food employees deal with the most harassment, the most confrontation, is because the company does not back them to deal with the situations they bring on to their employees. And the employees are left emotionally with their personal life and professional life dealing with the situation the company presented them. So when they react, it's seen as ghetto, overreactive, unprofessional. But is it the employee's fault that they were set up in a situation to fail and they emotionally respond? Is that their fault or the company's?
Right. Iman, you had a thought?
Yeah, I think it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning too about how it's not only the customer, the employer and the employee's job, but the customer to really try to have that. I think Uncle Dave has spoken about it before, just knowing conflict resolution and to understand that because the machine isn't working doesn't mean that the person you're looking at in this moment, it's not their fault. And you shouldn't really be talking to them the way that you do because they are here to take the money. Right. So it becomes this whole little web, but it's like, really, over ice cream? This is how we want to conduct
and
ourselves.
Got stopped if the company took care of the major problem.
Right. Yeah. Well, but
they're humans too.
Well, so,
because professionalism.
I don't know if I'm that company and somebody goes off on somebody because the machine is broke. I'm not mad at my employees for going in. And I know that that's not really true, but my feeling when I watch those moments, like, yeah, tell them, because I don't deserve that behavior or that treat. I'm not getting paid. I'm getting paid to do a job. I'm not getting paid for that. So what you get when I'm dealing with that is you can consider that off the clock because that wasn't in my job description. Okay.
Wait, Auntie Kolesta, what about the cookie cutter?
No, hold on. I genuinely believe that in work environments, there is a certain level of professionalism that is required, right? I am in management in the social services field, right? That's the other job, the one I forgot, the main that sucks me dry. Now, no, but it is expected, right? So this whole thing of employees, employers, it's 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 an experiment. It's like a science experiment, right? Customers and clients and participants, they're the variable. I don't know what I'm going to get. We don't know, right? But in this field, it is expected that you are 95% of the time going to provide this thing, right? And when you step out of that, it better be for a damn good reason. And sometimes there are. And I do believe in making space for humanity such that I am not illogical in expecting someone to respond in a way that I wouldn't even, right? But in my mind, it's like give them the damn Caesar and let's get on to the next person in a way, because that's an easy fix. And the argument of who is right is not a good use of time, energy, money, blah, 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 blah. But depending on what that person is going through in their personal lives and what their best looks like, right? Four agreements, do your best. Your best depends on if you had your coffee, if you got your hug and your kiss from your honey, if you had a fight with the person at the light, if someone had road rage and like shook you, your best does depend on a lot of different variables.
Right.
But that common thread is that thing that you're expected to deliver, and then you debrief, and then you talk about the trauma, and then you talk about the hard parts with the people who understand what it is that you're providing. You're the constant in this science experiment. They're the variable. Don't become a variable. Please don't become a client. Oh my God. I have dealt with some people, and I'm like, you're a customer, right? You're a full-on client right now. And that probably is politically incorrect to say that out loud. But the sentiment is that we are all a bunch of human beings. And when you come into a situation to provide a thing, you provide it to the best of your ability. And if there are human moments that come out, hopefully your employer is a place that makes space for that humanity. But if not, that's on you. You should have held your tongue, okay? Should have took a deep breath.
On the back end,
So
I'm sorry, Dan.
go ahead.
On the back end of your comment, Auntie, is there is a significant difference between a customer and a client. There's a very significant difference that no, you're right. Participants included. So participants, customers, and clients. A participant is willing to be there and they're going to pay the amount to be there. A customer is transactional. You might see them once, you might never see them again. A client is you're making a long-term commitment to this individual. You might see them once a week, twice a week, 5 times a week, 7 days a week. You never know. But the client to customer is so separate, but businesses try to make it the same. The reality is not the same. When it becomes a client, it becomes very personal. I know you. I see you. This is why you get, rewards on your your card with us, because I see you come in here on certain days, order the same products. You become a client because I understand your process. As a customer, I might not know what you do for 2 years. I don't know what you do. I saw you that one time. I might or may have collected your information as a business. Probably not. But the client to customer to even, like you said, I'm sorry, what was the word you used?
It's a participant, not client. It's a participant.
Participant is like, right. I mean, to me, a participant is the same as a volunteer. So if you have a homeless drive or any kind of drive that, gives back to the community, it's usually volunteers. Those are participants. I'm willingly giving my time because I care about said goal to give back. A customer is someone that's getting a transactional. I give you this, you give me that. A client is someone you know by name, you know by face, you know by repetition. Yeah, yes. You almost become like a third-party family member. I've had clients now that I've met who were customers when I started, who I met when they were a girl and a guy going out. They became a girl and a guy dating. They're married now, looking at kids. That's what clientele is different. You create this long-term relationship where the steady nature of how you treat it tells a lot about you as the business. In this case, it would be me. I've met clients who started out as friends and are now married with kids, where that connection is very important to me, specifically kind of bringing it back home about, why it's important to have that environment is understanding I don't know where you guys are at day one, but I like the environment you're setting. We're vibing with each other. We like each other. We're creating this environment that we like to be around each other. And in 5 years, as my business has grown, I'm meeting folks that now have kids coming out, and I'm just like, hey, congratulations on your new house. Has nothing to do with you booking me again, but I've created a relationship with you. I think
Right.
clientele is so far outside of customer service because customer service employees don't get treated like clientele employees treat you because they treat you like family over here. Over here, they treat you like it was nice to have you that one time. Over here, they want to help you because you become organic to them. This is my thought. Sorry.
So as we get ready to wrap up the conversation, I did want to mention that all of this is important. It's not either or. It is the business hiring the people that have the skill sets that they need, providing them with the resources that they need to do a good job, the worker doing the best job that they can and feeling good about themselves, the customers, clients, whichever one they are, when you come to this environment, but it's not either or. They're all important. So everybody who is engaged ends up feeling psychologically safe about it. Really. I mean, because if I go to buy something once and you yell and scream at me that one time, I could be really traumatized by that. And I don't need you to do that, even if it's once. So we should be thinking about this really all the time. I mean, if you wake up and you're having that kind of day, perhaps that's not the day. And Mon, you mentioned it early on. Maybe that's not the day to be doing the customer facing stuff because it's just not. I'm not there today. I'm not there. And Kolesta, to your point, the organization ought to be recognizing that to say, look, we've got some other places that you can function today, but that's not one of them because you're just not feeling it. This is a conversation that needs to be had across all social gatherings, particularly ones that we call them businesses. We all need to be having it. How do we make it such that people feel as good as possible in this environment while we're trying to exchange whatever we're trying to exchange? So, because we could probably go on longer and longer, what I'm going to ask now is for a closing thought about maybe some advice, and you all can give some. So this is your opportunity to give some advice about, just feeling good at work, because a lot of these conversations are about work, but whoever you want to give the advice to the business, to the customer, or to the worker, whichever one you want to give a piece of advice to about, psychological health and safety and how people are feeling emotionally. So pick one of them you want to give some advice to, and Kolesta, why don't you go first?
To the employee, I want to say that you've got to advocate for yourself and you do have to maintain a sense of professionalism. You're the constants in the science experiment. You know what's expected of you. You've got to be able to say, hey, I'm not feeling very well. Can I take a moment? Hey, I need a mental health day. Hey, I'm not well in my life. I need some resources. You've got to be able to open your mouth and advocate for yourself. To the employers, just care, invest in the well-being of the whole person that is employed at your organization so that they can show up and give you the best. It's cost effective on the back end. It's going to cost less to invest in that than it is high turnover. And then, yeah, that's those two, right? Yeah, that's, yeah,
Okay.
say what you need, take what you need, be honest about your humanity, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and invest in whole person care when it comes to employees.
Okay. Brian, your thoughts? Who'd you like to
Uh,
give some advice to?
Number one, I kind of want to hit. I kind of want to hit all three. To the
Okay.
employer, understand your market changes daily, yearly, generationally. It just does. So the same people you think you can hire, it's going to change in a year from now. I mean, we are now 3 years removed from COVID. The type of employees you're going to have are vastly different than who you thought you were going to be able to employ in 2019. So it's adjust as the employer and adjust to the kind of employees you want to have. As the actual employee, understand your level of balance. I think Alessa said it right. There needs to be a sense of balance between professionalism and and personal life. That's absolutely correct. You can't necessarily bring your personal problems to work because your employers, it's not their job to take care of your personal life. So there has to be a sense of balance, and then particularly with customers. And I'll say this to you guys now because this is always an idea I've always had is creating a job customer service school to treat people how to be better customers, how to be better clients. Is because there's the whole yeah. The whole idea of the customer's always right, one, is bullshit. It is. It's an old fashioned term old businesses use to maintain business. The reality is there is a system of transaction between the customer and the business that meets the two in the middle. And as the customer, it is still your job as the customer to do your research. It is your job to understand that the person you're talking to across the counter, this isn't their career. This isn't what they want to do for the rest of their life. So they still deserve a level of respect towards them, regardless of what they're dealing with behind you that you think is a part of their job. But it isn't. If someone is hired to be a cashier, it isn't their job to make sure your food comes out properly made and properly formed and properly put into a bag that you like. So there are levels to business, regardless of what business you want to categorize, where people have different category responsibilities to have. So as the customer, as my closing, be respectful, be nice. And if it's not of your standards, just leave. Your Yelp review is not necessary. Your attitude is not necessary. Your scolding is not necessary. You're just adding fuel to a fire that's already damn near out of control, and 911's on the way. Make sure if you don't feel like you're being taken care of the way you want to, you go find somewhere else to go. Point blank, period. And then that when you go over there and it goes well, stay over there and don't be mad in assessing them for being less than. You just wanted here, they had this, and you came to this. That's on you. Accept responsibility for your choices.
Iman, you want to close us out?
Yeah, right.
Iman, you want to close us out? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll do my best. That was a lot to follow up on, but I'll do my best. I'll just say to the employee, because we've all been one, from the business owner to the customer, you all work a job. At the end of the day, we all have to make a living. Like my uncle, Bryan, my cousin said, just be nice. Try to have a little bit of empathy whenever you're going into any situation, and start your day off right. Start your day off in the way that you feel will prompt you to have the best day possible. And whatever happens after that, you will manage it as it goes. Yeah, I don't really, that was a lot. I'm going to just close it on that. I had a lot of my thoughts, but we're going pretty far. So just peace and happiness, y'all.
That's how you really feel.
Thanks to all y'all for coming on here. It is an honor to spend some time with all of you again. As I mentioned, this has kind of been like a mini family Zoom, just for us. yeah, right on. But
no, for real.
Yay. But again, I appreciate all of you all, and appreciate the opportunity for us to share a little bit of, I do recognize that not all families have this level of conversation with each other. They are, for all kinds of reasons, are at odds and don't talk and don't do things. And it is a blessing to be able to have people that, we have similar bloodlines, we have similar ways that we see the world, and we also see things different, and we're able to work it out and have to be able to commune with each other. So thanks very much. And okay, so if you're watching this episode on the Flourish DX YouTube page, please do like, subscribe, and share with your friends. If you're watching or listening to the podcast for the first time, welcome. I hope something that you've heard will cause you to come back to an episode in the future. Previous episodes of the podcast can be found on psychhealthandsafetyusa.com. We'd certainly like you to become a part of the Psych Health and Safety USA movement by connecting to us on LinkedIn. And that's it. Thanks very much for joining us, and look forward to our next episode of the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. Thanks very much.
Tune in each Friday for new episodes of the Psych Health and Safety USA podcast. If you have a story or know of one that needs to be told, reach out to us on LinkedIn or send an email to david@id2-solutions.com or go to the FlourishDX website at flourishdx.com. We'll see you next time.